Ladies and gentlemen, within the quiet of our own thoughts rages a conflict more intense than any war fought with weapons. It is the battle of the mind, a struggle not against the world outside, but against the shadows within. This battle is not a flaw, it is a necessity, for the mind is a landscape of opposites, light and dark, order and chaos, consciousness and the unconscious. Today, I invite you to explore 5 essential insights into this invisible war we each fight. Within each of us lies a hidden realm, an obscure part of the psyche often ignored, denied, or buried deep beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. This hidden part is what we call the shadow. It contains everything we reject about ourselves, the fears, impulses, desires, and traits that we find uncomfortable, unacceptable, or shameful. Yet the shadow is not some malevolent force that we must destroy or run from. Rather, it is an essential part of our wholeness. The problem is that we are often taught to fear this inner darkness. We try to push it away, to cover it with masks of perfection, kindness, or control. But what we resist, we empower. When we ignore the shadow, it does not disappear. Instead, it grows stronger beneath the surface, influencing our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we may not even understand. It manifests in our fears, in sudden anger, in unconscious judgments of others, and in the patterns that keep repeating in our lives. The shadow can become a force that sabotages us from within. Facing the shadow, however, requires courage, a different kind of bravery than fighting an external enemy. It asks us to turn inward with honesty and compassion, to meet our darkness without denial or condemnation. This confrontation is not a defeat but an initiation, a rite of passage that opens the door to true self-awareness. When we allow ourselves to see and accept the shadow, it loses its power to control us unconsciously. We begin to reclaim the parts of ourselves that were hidden, fragmented, or misunderstood. In doing so, we find new sources of strength, creativity, and authenticity. The shadow, once feared, becomes a guide, showing us what needs healing and what is waiting to be integrated. In essence, the shadow is not the enemy. It is a mirror reflecting the parts of ourselves we have disowned. The battle is not to eradicate it, but to bring it into the light of consciousness where it can be understood and transformed. Only by embracing the shadow can we become whole. To live fully, we must stop fearing the darkness within and begin to listen to its quiet voice. This is the path to freedom and inner peace. There is a paradox at the heart of the human mind. The more we struggle to push away certain thoughts, feelings, or experiences, the more stubbornly they cling to us. This is the nature of resistance. When something in our inner world makes us uncomfortable, be it pain, fear, doubt, or shame, our instinct is often to reject it, to shut it out, to pretend it does not exist. Yet by doing so, we give it greater energy and presence in our lives. The mind does not work like a simple machine that obeys commands of suppression or avoidance. Instead, it is a dynamic and living system where hidden elements gather strength in the shadows. Imagine trying to hold down a beach ball underwater. The harder you push, the more forcefully it will bounce back. So too with the mind. When we resist an emotion or a thought, it surfaces repeatedly, sometimes in disguised or intensified forms. This resistance can take many shapes. It may appear as anxiety that cannot be quieted, anger that flares unexpectedly, or recurring patterns that trap us in frustration and despair. The more we resist these inner experiences, the more they persist, demanding our attention and healing. They call to us not to be defeated, but to be understood. True transformation begins not with battle or denial, but with acceptance and curiosity. To sit with what troubles us, without judgment, without rushing to fix or escape, is to disarm its power. Awareness becomes a kind of gentle illumination, revealing the roots beneath the surface. In this light, what was once frightening or unwelcome becomes a guidepost for growth. Acceptance does not mean surrendering to pain or giving up on change. Rather, it is an acknowledgement that the very things we resist carry messages about ourselves, messages about our unmet needs, unhealed wounds, or parts of our identity we have yet to embrace. By turning toward them, we open a door to deeper self, knowledge, and eventually to freedom. Resistance, then, is like a locked gate, and acceptance the key. When we stop fighting against ourselves and begin to listen, the persistence of what we resisted softens, and the mind begins to harmonize. This is how inner battles give way to peace, and how struggle becomes the soil for growth. Our minds are not simply logical machines processing facts and events in a straightforward way. Beneath the surface of our conscious thoughts lies a vast, mysterious realm where meaning is communicated through symbols, images, metaphors, and stories that speak directly to the soul. These symbols arise from the unconscious, that deep reservoir of the psyche that holds our memories, instincts, and the collective wisdom of humanity itself. They are not random or meaningless. Rather, they are the language through which the mind reveals truths that reason alone cannot grasp. When we dream, when we imagine, when we stumble upon sudden insights or feelings that defy explanation, we are encountering these symbols. They might take the shape of animals, landscapes, strangers, or even strange emotions. Each symbol carries multiple layers of meaning, often pointing to parts of ourselves that remain hidden or undeveloped. By paying attention to these symbols and learning to interpret them, we unlock doors within our own inner world. This symbolic language is a key to liberation because it allows us to access wisdom beyond the limits of everyday thinking. It invites us to understand the deeper causes of our conflicts, desires, and fears. For example, a recurring dream of water might symbolize emotional depths that need exploring, or an image of a broken bridge may reveal feelings of separation or transition in life. These symbols, when carefully considered, offer us guidance and healing. Ignoring or dismissing these symbolic messages leaves us disconnected from the richness of our inner life. We become lost in the surface noise of daily routines and external distractions. But when we cultivate the habit of reflection and openness, we begin to see that the symbols are not just mysterious images. They are signposts on the path to self, discovery, and wholeness. Moreover, these symbols connect us to a universal language shared across cultures and generations. They remind us that our personal struggles and growth are part of a larger human story. By embracing this symbolic wisdom, we tap into the collective unconscious, a wellspring of insight that supports us in moments of crisis and transformation. Ultimately, the symbols of the mind guide us out of confusion and fragmentation. They help us piece together the puzzle of who we truly are, beyond the masks and roles we play. When we listen deeply to these inner messages, we gain the courage to face our fears, the clarity to make meaningful choices, and the strength to become more whole. In this way, symbols are not mere fantasies or illusions. They are the keys that unlock the door to freedom, freedom from inner conflict, freedom from ignorance about ourselves, and freedom to live authentically and fully. Many of us grow up with the belief that to be worthy or successful, we must be perfect, that every flaw, every mistake, every sign of vulnerability is a failure to be hidden or erased. This illusion of perfection can become a prison, trapping us in endless cycles of self-criticism and unrealistic expectations. Yet the path to true wholeness, the kind of integration where all parts of the self come together in harmony, is not paved with perfection. It is paved with courage. Courage, in this sense, means something deeper than mere bravery in the face of external challenges. It is the willingness to look honestly at ourselves, our strengths and weaknesses alike, and to embrace all that we are, even the parts that feel broken, messy, or unlovable. It means accepting that imperfection is not a defect, but an essential aspect of being human. The journey toward wholeness is not about polishing ourselves to shine flawlessly in the eyes of others. It is about becoming real, authentic, and fully present with who we are beneath the surface. This requires courage because it means dropping the masks we wear, the personas we have carefully constructed to protect ourselves from judgment and pain. It means daring to be vulnerable, to face the inner chaos and contradictions that reside within. In this process, we come to see that our flaws are often the very gateways to growth. Our wounds, doubts, and failures hold hidden wisdom. They show us where we need healing and where new strengths can emerge. To deny or hide these parts is to remain fragmented, caught in a constant struggle between who we pretend to be and who we truly are. Courage also means allowing ourselves to be imperfect in the eyes of the world, to stumble and fall without losing hope. It is the acceptance that making mistakes is not a sign of weakness, but a vital part of learning and evolving. The person who walks the path to wholeness does not seek a flawless image, but a full, vibrant life that includes both light and shadow. This courage to be whole, rather than perfect, liberates us from the tyranny of external approval and internal self-judgment. It invites us into a more compassionate relationship with ourselves, one where kindness replaces harshness and patience replaces impatience. Through this acceptance, the fractured pieces of our psyche begin to come together, creating a stronger, more resilient self. Ultimately, wholeness is a dynamic process, a lifelong unfolding where courage is the constant companion. It is the courage to face uncertainty, to embrace complexity, and to live in alignment with our deepest truths. It is through this courageous acceptance of imperfection that we find the freedom to be fully human and fully alive. Inner conflict is often experienced as a painful, exhausting struggle, a clash of opposing desires, values, fears, and hopes that tear us in different directions. It can feel like a storm raging inside us, leaving confusion and doubt in its wake. Yet this very conflict is not simply a source of suffering or weakness. It is a profound call to awaken to a deeper truth about ourselves. The tensions we feel within are signs that different parts of our psyche are seeking recognition and balance. These opposing forces, light and shadow, reason and emotion, safety and growth, are not enemies to be defeated but essential aspects of who we are. The inner battle invites us to engage with these contradictions, to listen deeply to what each side has to say, and to discover a new way of being that honors all parts of ourselves. This process is often described as individuation, the journey toward becoming our true, unique self. It is not a destination, but an unfolding, a lifelong work of weaving the disparate threads of our identity into a coherent whole. Our inner conflict is the furnace in which this transformation takes place, forging strength and clarity from the heat of opposing forces. Rather than resisting or denying this struggle, embracing it opens the door to self-discovery. When we ask ourselves what these conflicts mean, what fears or desires lie beneath them, we begin to uncover the hidden layers of our identity. We realize that our inner turmoil is not a sign of failure but a sign of life, a sign that we are being called to move beyond superficial roles and conditioned patterns. The journey is not easy. It demands courage to face uncomfortable truths and to let go of old beliefs and habits that no longer serve us. It requires patience to tolerate uncertainty and the tension of not having clear answers. But through this process, we gradually align with our authentic self, a self that is more resilient, more creative, and more at peace. In embracing inner conflict, we also come to recognize that the true self is not a fixed, perfect ideal, but a living, evolving presence. It grows richer through experience and integration, shaped by both light and shadow. The struggle itself becomes a source of meaning, pushing us toward greater depth and wholeness. Ultimately, your inner conflict is not something to be feared or avoided. It is an invitation, a sacred summons, to shed illusions, to listen to the voice of your soul, and to become who you truly are. The battle within is the birthplace of transformation and the gateway to a life lived with purpose, authenticity, and freedom.